Hello everyone, this is H2Acon here from Online Knights, and I'm here today with another episode of Character Case Files. This episode we're going to be looking at a character suggested to me by you, the viewers. Let's take a look at the backstory of Commander Sarah Palmer. Palmer was born on April 13th, 2527 on Luna, Earth's moon. Neither of her parents had any particular love for the United Earth Government, or the UNSC. However, young Sarah did not share their views, going on to join the Marine Corps as an orbital drop shock trooper. Fighting in the latter years of the Human Covenant War, Palmer served 12 tours on 8 different worlds, and quickly rose through the ranks due to her physical prowess and leadership skills. On October 20th, 2552, Palmer was on a mission to extract a high-ranking naval officer, Admiral Kovalik, from a Covenant-occupied colony world. Although a squad of ODSTs had been deployed, only her drop pod landed near the Admiral's location. Palmer was then forced to single-handedly take on a Jiralhane chieftain wielding a gravity hammer before she could drive the Admiral to safety. Palmer safely extracted the Admiral, however she was hit in the shoulder by a needler round as they made their escape. She then spent the next few months recovering from this wound at the Lockhart Medical Space Station. While she was there, the Human Covenant War came to its unofficial end in December 2552, as the joint UNSC and Covenant separatist forces returned triumphant from the Battle of Installation 00. The UNSC could not rest easy in their victory, however. Although leaderless and collapsing, the Covenant Empire was still a force to be reckoned with, and the threat of insurrectionism in the outer colonies was still very real. To protect the United Earth government and humanity from these threats, a fourth Spartan program was proposed, the main proponent of which was Commander Musa. Musa, formerly Musa 096, was a Spartan too, however he had been crippled by the high-risk augmentation process and discharged from the class. Having been a victim of the Spartan 2 program himself, Musa was strongly opposed to the unethical use of child soldiers in the Spartan 2 and 3 programs, and proposed to go back to using consenting adults, just like with the original Orion project. Musa's proposal was put before the UNSC High Command in January 2553, and was finally given the seal of approval by the Commander-in-Chief of ONI, Admiral Margaret Parangoski. With Musa heading the program, Spartan 3 June A266 was brought in as Chief Training Officer. June immediately set about handpicking 5 ODSTs to be a pilot group for the program. Palmer, still aboard Lockhart Medical Station, was one of the 5 to be approached by June with the offer to join the new program. She accepted and joined Edward Davis, Yonghao Holst, Joel Thomas and Vladimir Scruggs to become Fireteam Jackknife, the very first squad of Spartan 4s. The 5 were immediately entered into a 3-week augmentation process, going through a series of procedures to improve their combat skills. Once recovered from the operations, Palmer and the rest of Jackknife began their advanced training. Despite their individual skill, June grew frustrated at their refusal to work together as a team. Palmer in particular often blazed ahead of her less able squadmates, preferring to complete the mission by herself. Later on, June took the 5 initiates on a tour of the almost completed UNSC Infinity. The trip was intended to get them acquainted with their future posting, and to test out some of the features of the Spartan deck. However, whilst they were on board, the cruiser was boarded by a small strike force of rebels from the insurrectionist group the New Colonial Alliance. Their leader, Ilsa Zane, had discovered the existence of the Infinity and sought to steal it so that the rebels could use it for themselves in the fight against the UNSC. Once they'd slipped aboard disguised as a construction crew, Zane and her small band broke onto the bridge and locked the captain of the ship, Andrew Del Rio, inside a nearby room along with all of the bridge officers. The insurrectionists disabled the ship's construction AI, thus gaining complete control over the Infinity's systems. Zane then used the ship's PA system to announce their presence and warn the crew that any attempts to retake the bridge would result in her venting the ship's atmosphere, killing everyone on board. The ship's second-in-command, Commander Thomas Lasky, had been leading the Spartans' tour, and upon hearing this announcement he helped Palmer and the other Spartan 4s to requisition sets of Mjolnir from the S-Deck armor bay. Once suited up, the Spartans split up. Holst, Scruggs and Thomas remained with June to protect Lasky, whilst Palmer and Davis set about reclaiming the bridge. The pair decided to take full advantage of the vacuum-sealed suits, exiting the vessel via a nearby emergency airlock. Once out in space, Palmer and Davis slowly crawled their way up the side of the hull to the bridge. The duo surprised the insurrectionists by breaching the observation windows, causing the bridge to rapidly begin to decompress to hard vacuum. Davis eliminated Zane's henchman, whilst Palmer engaged her in a fistfight. Palmer was able to knock Zane out into the void, and so, once the ship's AI was reconnected, the Infinity was back under UNSC control. Off the back of this success, the Spartan 4 program grew massively in the following years, significantly increasing in number and becoming their own division within the UNSC, operating outside of naval jurisdiction with Commander Musa as their head. The bulk of the Spartans were assigned to the UNSC Infinity, however some were stationed on various research stations, or attached to garrisons of high-value locations. Spartans Palmer and Davis were two of those on garrison duty, stationed in the Dratheus system. When a Covenant splinter sect attacked in 2554, the pair played a pivotal role in the defense of the UNSC colony on Dratheus 5. They were both initially stationed on Dratheus 5's moon, X50, however the ferocity of the Covenant attack meant that the moon was lost within a day. Whilst Davis remained behind on the moon to harass the invading forces, Palmer retreated to an airbase and caught one of the last transports planetside. Once deployed down on the surface of Dratheus 5, Palmer set about assisting the UNSC garrison repel the Covenant attackers. After successfully pushing Covenant forces back from Faraday Base, the UNSC's biggest stronghold, she slipped behind enemy lines to eliminate several Sangheli officers who were directing the alien troops. Leaving 6 elite commanders dead behind her, she then joined the UNSC counterattack. Palmer led the 23rd Armoured Cavalry in a push south to attack the Covenant column that was on its way to link up with those attacking from the north. What later became known as the Battle at Red Slate was a Pyrrhic victory for the UNSC. Only 8 of the 23rd's 86 tanks survived. Nonetheless, the preemptive strike to prevent the two groups of Covenant joining up bought valuable time for Palmer and the UNSC ground forces on Dratheus 5. However, the tide of the battle was to be turned on X50. Unbeknownst to the UNSC, X50 was not actually a natural moon. It was another vast Forerunner construct, a weapon capable of dismantling whole planets. The Covenant cult leader Merg Vol discovered the secret and activated the installation, turning its full destructive force on Dratheus 5. Spartan Davis led the charge by the remaining UNSC troops on the moon to deactivate the device. However, despite shutting it down, irreparable damage had already been done. With Dratheus 5 collapsing and falling apart, Palmer's mission priorities changed to heading evacuation efforts. With the majority of UNSC ships and system destroyed by the initial Covenant attack, Palmer was forced to capture several Covenant airfields to procure space-capable transport. With ships to get off-world secured, Palmer then escorted the column of Elephant troop transports conveying UNSC troops and civilians to the seized vessels. Although the bulk of Dratheus 5's populace had escaped safely, Palmer's role in the battle was far from over. She was ordered to return to X50 to join Davis in hunting down Merg Vol. Upon arriving back on the moon, Palmer discovered that Davis had been killed in the fighting there, and so the assassination mission was hers alone. After a long and close fight, she finally executed the downed cult leader and made good her escape from the moon. Just as the UNSC made ready to pull out from the system, their sensors started to pick up a strange Forerunner signal coming from X50. A strike force, including Palmer, were redeployed to the moon to investigate the source of the signal and to deny the Covenant access to yet more Forerunner technology. Inserting via drop pods, Palmer and a group of ODSTs secured a landing zone, allowing reinforcements to be landed. After leading an armoured division through a gorge and infiltrating a system of caverns, Palmer finally arrived at the location of the source. She discovered that the signal was in fact a cry for help. Spartan Davis's remains had been composed by a Forerunner machine, his thoughts and memories converted into electronic form. After extracting the machine via Pelican dropship for further study, Palmer shut it down to save Davis from his unwanted fate, thus killing him once and for all. Since the UNSC had not yet encountered the Prometheans on Requiem and were unaware of the process of composing, the events on X50 post the elimination of Merg Vol were classified and wiped from the official record. This was much to the annoyance of Palmer, who wanted her friend and comrade Davis to be remembered properly. Due to her heroism during the Battle of Dratheus 5, Palmer received a promotion to Commander and was assigned to the UNSC Infinity in command of the ship's entire complement of Spartans. This is how we found her in Halo 4 and Halo 4 Spartan Ops, where we saw her serving in the first and second Battles of Requiem in 2557 and 2558 respectively. When the Infinity returned back to Earth after the events of Halo 4 Spartan Ops, Captain Lasky and Commander Palmer were called in for debriefing by the UNSC High Command. Lasky was blamed for several perceived failures on his part, above all for the escape of Dr. Catherine Halsey. Fortunately for the captain, Palmer covered for his disobeying the order to assassinate the Doctor by claiming that it was her fault for missing the shot. After having saved her friend's job, Palmer and Lasky were dismissed from the hearing. Lasky was later approached by Admiral Terence Hood, who invited the captain to be his aide on a diplomatic meeting with the Sangheli and Jiralhane. The aim of the meeting was to try and diffuse the rising tension between the two species, with humanity present to act as third-party mediators. Lasky accepted the offer, and was soon on the neutral planet of Aelan 4, observing the peace talks between the Arbiter, Thelvadan, and the Jiralhane clan chieftain Lydus. Spartan fire teams Jackknife and Bailey, led by Spartans Scruggs and DeMarco respectively, provided security detail, whilst Commander Palmer served as personal bodyguard to the human delegation. Despite the tight security, the location of the meeting had been betrayed, and the discourse was soon interrupted by an attack from Covenant remnant forces, under the command of the Sanghili shipmaster Vata Gajat. Palmer and the other Spartans were able to get the VIPs clear, and escorted them past hostiles to a defensive redoubt. Fireteam Jackknife had been sent ahead to clear the structure. However, once away from the rest of the group, Spartan Scruggs turned on and killed the other members of his team. When the main party reached the redoubt, Scruggs ambushed them and seized Hood as a hostage. Shocked at his treachery, Palmer was momentarily stunned, however she quickly regained her senses. After shooting Hood in the thigh to get him out of the way, Palmer engaged Scruggs and finally finished him off with a combat knife to the throat. With the Covenant's inside man dealt with, the small band set about locating transport off-world. Palmer and the delegates were able to get to safety in an old tug vessel. However, DeMarco and Fireteam Bailey were forced to remain behind to cover them using an anti-aircraft battery. Palmer had still not become desensitized to losing a fellow Spartan, and she turned her grief to anger on Lasky, who had given DeMarco the fatal order to stay. As of 2558, Palmer is still assigned to the UNSC Infinity as the leader of its Spartan contingent. With many of their old war heroes gone, it's up to a new generation of characters, such as Halo 5's Agent Locke, to lead the charge for humanity. Given how far she's been featuring in the Halo universe lately, both in games and in the ongoing series of comics, I would be very surprised if she didn't end up making a return in one of the upcoming Halo titles. Well, that's all for this episode. If there are any other characters you'd like me to cover, then go ahead and suggest them in a comment down below, but for now, that's all from me. Please like the video and subscribe for more. I've been H2Acon, and I'll see you next time on Character Case Files.